Well, well, well. I thought I'd never see the day. What's up, guys? That guy with eight pencil here from that doing to have it on and keep it on me at all times. Fun fact: I have 15 minutes to tell you my thoughts on Rin Itoshi, of all characters, getting benched, getting removed from the narrative for the England game. And I'm assuming it's just the England game specifically. We'll see if it has any further ramifications, but probably just the England game, or at least like the opening of it. But let's not waste more time. Let me find this 15-minute timer and hop right into it. Yeah. Okay, so first thing I want to lay out. Do I like the decision on an individual level? Before I get into any of the context and the rationalization behind the decision, whether or not it makes sense, do I like it? Do I like breathing? Do I like consuming food to maintain myself? Do I like living? Of course I love this. You know I'm more than happy. And you'll be like, whoa, Pencil Man. That's just because you're a filthy, disgusting, nasty Rin slanderer. And hey, it's not slander, it's libel. I know that's not true. But on top of that, I've come around to Rin, right? While it is definitely still in a more so, yeah, fine, whatever. I respect the character more than I actually like the character. Still, I respect the character more than I like the character. So yes, of course, I'm happy that Rin's being taken out of the game. Now, with that being the case, does the decision make sense, right? Because that's been the big thing that I've seen the community talk about a lot, right? Now that we know Rin is out for the next game, which is something that I don't think anyone really predicted. There were jokes about it, I'm pretty sure. Like, oh, Rin's gonna be benched. But like, no one actually thought it would happen, ya boy included. So, what does it make sense in narrative? The narrative do a good job establishing why Rin is being taken out of the game for the next game. And honestly, I would say yes. And here's the thing, right? It is basically entirely on the France game. I did a quick run back just to make sure I wasn't tweaking, but no, Rin was effective in the Nigeria game. He was fine. Like, he did what he was supposed to do. There are no problems. Of course, we didn't have any destroyer mode Rin or anything in that game, but like, it wasn't really needed. As much as I love my people, they were not strong enough to actually push him into doing that, so I'm not surprised we did not get to see him. He was stuffed and then he scored. Like, legit, he was fine. So there's no reason from the Nigeria game, or any precedent before this, right? Like, we're not going to deep reference in Itoshi League, we're not going to deep reference anything else, because Rin is number one in bluelock for a reason, and has been, right? I'm not going to deny the character's capacity or ability, right? Like, he is just that. But in the same case, as I cannot blame him previously for anything, I can blame him in the France game. And before I even blame him in the big way that a lot of people are blaming Rin and are happy that he's out for, before even getting to that, I do need to put a critique on Rin for his performance earlier on in the plot, right? Now, I am not going to say that I personally expected Rin to be able to outclass Loki. It just wasn't really a thing that would have made much sense at all based on the previous scaling for Loki, for Rin, for everybody involved, right? It wasn't necessarily logical, so I'm not going to get mad at Rin for his inability to take care of a threat as big as Loki, because no one on the team should have been able to take care of Loki alone. And of course, it's not like Loki was alone. Hugo was there as well. Like, legitimately, it's two new Gen 111s. Yeah, naturally, Rin was not enough for that. But the issue is, Rin didn't contribute at all to any of bluelock's success. None of it. None of it in this, like, he wasn't even relevant, right? Sure, he was a man on the pitch. I will readily give that. But if we're giving credit for being a man on the pitch, we would have to give credit to Rayo, who did just about as much as Rin did. Arguably more. I'm kidding. But the main thing that I think I have to fault Rin on is the fact that he went a little bit ghost. It's one thing to not be involved in either of the goals for it's one thing to not be involved in either of the goals for bluelock, right? Like, this, then, the third, it happens on occasion. It'd be like that, especially when it be like that sometimes. But very specifically, the idea that he didn't even draw aggro, right? The idea that he wasn't not just there, but he wasn't really doing anything. This is the one major interaction that I remember beforehand. I didn't scan throughout the entire rest of the game to see if there was another time Rin even touched the ball. And I'm pretty sure I am still missing one because I just couldn't find it. But at the same time, that's it. This was this one bit of aggro drawing and him occasionally popping up here and there. He just didn't do much of anything. And of course, you may be like, well, he didn't do much of anything because of the stiff competition, right? But I can't excuse that entirely, because someone like Isagi had very stiff competition. He literally had one of the New Gen World 11 members locked in on him for a majority of the game, and he still managed to put up this performance in the end and still put himself in a position where he could have scored and tied the game, right? So, of course, we don't need to talk about the actual thing that a lot of people are saying, yeah, Rin needed to be benched for. It's this. It's coming out of nowhere and essentially ruining Isagi's moment and banging it off the crossbar. Now, I've seen some Rin defenders try to come to the conclusion or rationalization that, well, the goal was going to miss anyway, or it's not actually Rin's fault, it's Isagi's fault. And hey, even I, in my reviews, was kind of like, well, you could argue that maybe Isagi in the moment should have, one, predicted Rin being there, right? Just because he knows how Rin works at this point to a decent degree. Even if he can't fully predict him, he should have, like, noticed that Rin was obviously weirdly going ghost in the same way that he was, except without any of the pressure. And two, that Isagi did have time in the moment to make the more mature decision, if you will. To make the choice to be like, well, I see that he's mid-swinging motion. He's not going to stop. I should stop in this moment, let him go for it, and tie the game. In a very, like, macro sense, looking at the wider, I feel like weird saying narrative, but literally looking at their wider pathing and being like, hey, if we miss this because I was too stubborn to swing on the ball, then I should just let Rin score, tie the game up, and at least go there. Because a tie is better than a loss, no matter which way you want to interpret it. Obviously, winning was off the table at this point. They were down. And to that, I say, yes, I do agree to some degree if we take more so the logical aspect of Isagi, right? The idea that he's a man who focuses on logic and reason, and thusly, in that moment, he should have logic and reasoned out that him hitting the ball at the same time as Rin, just in the same way that he hit the ball previously with Kaiser, which is what I believe this moment is obviously another callback to, would lead to a bounce off the crossbar, or just a flat-out miss, right? Ultimately, two people kicking on the ball at the same time is something that never really works and wouldn't have worked here. And Isagi, as the logical individual of these two, the logical older individual of these two, should have known. But, however, I'll say this. The other major defense I've seen is that we can't necessarily get mad at Rin, especially after chapter 350, because of the ideas of egoism instilled into him by Ego. And bluelock as a whole, the concept of it. Scoring, focusing on your own goal, doing everything within your capacity. And that's what Ego is reinforcing here still. And what he claims towards Rin is this weird, is not even, well, I've seen it described as weird, but an idea that ultimately the reason he's benching Rin and keeping Isagi in the pitch, when Isagi himself says, hey, please leave me out the next match, is very specifically because there was a person who was playing that didn't believe they could be the best in the world. Ultimately, there is this idea that if Ego's so focused on egoism being the greatest version of yourself, push for your own goals, be your own individual, do that at all max all the time, Rin was doing that, right? Rin was absolutely doing that by going in for his own goal and thusly giving into his ego. He even is in destroyer mode here, clearly, which he hadn't gone into the entire game. This is flow, this is reflex, this is everything. He's doing this all for this moment. What's more egotistical than that? And that is half true. And the reason I say it's half true, and the reason that I'm fine narratively with Rin being benched, and even with the speeches that Ego made in 350, that obviously do set up Ego as a more so, like, possible, if not flat out, antagonist to our cast in the way that he is constraining them by making them constrain themselves or work within themselves and their own ideation. We need to remember what Ego specifically sent Rin to do. What Ego ultimately wanted from Rin as a player in terms of his ego and his self-actualization. Before we got into the France game, heck, before we got even into the game of Nigeria, before we got into the World Cup arc itself, let's go back to chapter 305. Ego, if you'll remember, it didn't get as many mentions in the France game outside of like Kunigami, but if you remember, Ego sent all the kids out to do certain things in order to refine themselves, to better themselves in preparation for the World Cup. And let's just read what Ego specifically wrote to Rin. Rin Itoshi-sama, reflect on your ego once more. Thinks of Isagi and say, thwack. Your desire should not rely on pure destruction. That was number 50, old man! What did Rin specifically get told to do by Ego? Hey, while your true reflection, quote unquote, is strong and good enough, you haven't really found yourself. Because the innate definition of ego that Ego himself relies on and has pushed to our cast is the specific idea that you need to play for you, by you, of you. And by proxy, your ego shouldn't necessarily rely on somebody else. It's why, personally, Isagi's ego that he stands at current in his quote-unquote motivation of, oh, devouring the number one and this, that, and the third. I don't think that's his right ego either. I don't think that's right either. But the main issue that Ego found with Rin and specifically told him to go train about is the idea that his destructive ego is purely reliant on two separate individuals who have strong egos and ideations of their own, completely disconnected from Rin. And admittedly, in a way, like I mentioned earlier with Isagi shooting on the ball anyway, that did technically backfire. Because he should have rationalized for Rin. But Rin shouldn't have put himself in that position in the first place if he had defined himself better. If he had actually achieved success in the training Ego specifically sent him to do. Because Ego, for Rin, is that based on something else. Based on Isagi now. Those two define him. And it is because of that definition that Rin was put in the position to lose them the game. Right? Because as much as even Review Pencil was all about, like, yeah, you can definitely split the blame on this, it's Rin. Because Isagi, at least in this moment, while I don't fully agree with how he decided to get to this point, did at least get to the point based on his own individuality, his ability, and his maximization of self in that moment. Even if that moment did heavily rely on a lot of gambling. I ain't gonna lie to you, Twin. It did rely on a lot of gambling. Luck being thrown in there. Yeah, it was a lot. But even still, that was Isagi. Doing it for Isagi, by Isagi, of Isagi, even for the sake of devouring that number one in the moment, which was Hugo to him. He, in this moment, surpassed Ego, or Hugo, and became the number one in this instant when Hugo decided to lower himself away from destiny and into luck. And Rin came and ruined that. So, is Ego technically betraying his ideations about Ego? The purpose of self-actualization and manifestation, creating the world's best striker, is he going against it when he says, hey, Rin, you weren't trying to be the best in the world. You need to sit your behind down and think about what you did and what you are? I don't think so. Because Ego ultimately knows what Rin has locked in on as his quote-unquote truest destroyer ego is wrong. It's not what Ego pushes for. It's not the idea that you could be the world's best. Rin betrayed the Blue Lock ideology in a way that Isagi didn't. Because Isagi's ideation, even if I don't agree with it, and I don't think it fully falls within Ego's clarifications, I'm not even denying that. I disagree. I disagree with them. At least he was still trying to be the best in that moment. By admitting that he was the number one and going to devour him, he was still by himself, of himself, for himself, consuming. Devouring. Eating to raise himself. Rin was not doing that. This is a moment specifically based in that fear of being left behind, that fear of being abandoned. As Rin himself directly admits, you thought you could escape, Isagi. You don't get to leave me behind. I'll obliterate you. Entirely non-based in Rin. Entirely based on Isagi moving ahead. And sure, Blue Lock, by its very nature, is about beings consuming each other within the system, right? That's just how it works. The idea that you are sacrificing hundreds of people in order to be that number one. But this is too concentrated. It's too vague. And one thing I'll even give to Isagi's philosophy, as I have a minute and 30 seconds left, the one thing I'll give to Isagi's philosophy is that it's very vague, right? Vague in an almost healthy way, and vague in the way that being the number one striker in the world is vague. Because it is a culmination of a variety of abilities, and because the number one can be so consistently variable, as we see with Isagi. Heck, Hugo in Loki were flipping back and forth between number one in this very game, as we saw over and over and over again. Isagi isn't concentrated, and thusly he is more free to do what he can to evolve in the moment, but Rin is innately limited by that narrow perspective. So, what do I think benching Rin will do? It will force him to reflect on what he can actually do, for one. And for two, make him reflect on the choice that he made in this moment and whether or not he still wishes to, against Ego's wishes, define himself by that destructive impulse centered on two people specifically. Isagi did help Rin, in many ways, become broader in terms of his scope, but in the same way he has bound him even further, as we've seen. So ultimately, while this still is genuinely insane to me that Rin Itoshi of all characters is getting banished to the bench, I think he needs it. And I'm very interested to see how he's going to take this and how he's going to evolve from it. Because ultimately that's all this is. Rin Itoshi is a narrative permanent at this point. I will readily admit that. And because of that, I know from this he shall only continue to evolve. However, I believe, yep, I'm literally perfect. I'm just out of time. So, if you've been waiting this video, please leave the bench destroyer. Leave the bench destroyer in the comment section down below. If you've been all the way through this video, leave that. But, sorry. But, of course, these are my thoughts on Rin being benched. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Do you guys agree with me? Do you think that technically Ego is betraying himself and betraying his ideology and made the right choice with Rin based on the choice that he made? Or do you think it's not up to Ego to decide what a healthy ego is for Rin, and thusly Rin should still be able to play, as he still is a very competent player? He just made this one mistake. Do you guys like the benching? Do you not like the benching? Please leave all those thoughts and more in the comment section down below. And thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. Make sure that lethal notification bell so you don't miss out on any videos that come with the channel. Also, assuming to have a Patreon below, use more me for as well as one, get a 1 no month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. Also, now become a member of the channel for as well as 3 month to get the same perks and more. So those perks include the live reactions, so this is having to review. I do reactions of all my videos, early ad reactions, all my videos, early ad reactions, not just all my videos on the main channel, but all my videos on the second channel that got the reaction. Link in the description down below, along with a link to my co-Fizzly, where you drop 5 minutes for a short video, 20 minutes long video, or any visa. All any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I want to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Got the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our sketch tier members: Red Wolf 4765, Astro, Glacier XZ, Zera, J2MA, Buddha Ura, Yuki Ally, Grim, Ollie, Corey Watson, Damon Brown, Tim Thomas, Kaving, RXN, Dead Meat, Keon Stewart, Edwin Igbinoba, Straw, Antavius Mitchell, Weary Exile, Alex Kenny, Todd, The Practical One, Landon Clapwick, Heath Nelson, CAET, Plant Grown, Brandon Payne, Multi-Batman Superman, Zalim, Sleepin' John, Mocity King DKG, Union Eye, Athenzi Shear, Sino King, CCC, Axis Hexy, Praise the Sun, Magic, Andreen Bonnet, at JDog2656, Sheesh King, AZ Void, Sky XT, Felix, The Young Family Pastel Pandora, John Malcolm, Donovan McIntosh, Black Doctor Strange, Superflame Zero, Vlad, Victor Gabriel Velasquez, Ben Koo, Nevies97, and Not Drippy. Then, I'd like to give a thank you to our line art tier patrons: A+A, Kevin Encarnacion, Lucas Stace, Midnight Lord 21, and Shaw. And I'd like to give a thank you to our ink tier member, Shrimpo the Forest Shrimp 06. And I'd like to give a thank you to our digital art tier member, Jay Warrior. And I'd like to give a thank you to our colored art tier patrons, Walking Munoz and Joaquin Munoz.